to have been called upon to release this wonderful book, A Saint in the Boardroom, by my close friend of long years, Dr. R Raju, and by Dr. Retd I.A.S. I have also known Mr. Nair for quite some time as a very distinguished publisher of K.R Publishers, and as Mr. Nair was mentioning, very shortly they would be publishing a book on behalf of the Council for Social Development, New Delhi, on one of India's flagship programs, the Integrated Child Development Services, based on a social audit that I conducted. I am very pleased to be associated, therefore, with this function for several reasons. I thought I should make one little observation which should correct certain impressions in the audience, which has been created by a very generous compeer. She made me the secretary to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, which I was not, because when Mrs. Gandhi was in power, I was still a secretary to the government of Andhra Pradesh, and I never knew later on I would go into the Prime Minister's office, which of course eventually I did. And secondly, I was never the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, because as most of you will know, that only an ex-Chief Justice of India could be, under the statute, be the chairman of the Human Rights Commission. There's no way I could have been the Chief Justice of India at any time. I plead not guilty to those great honors conferred on me, and I must plead that, of course, I must plead guilty to having been secretary to 3 prime ministers, and but anyway, I appreciate the generosity which was kind of, which is so much in evidence. I must start by making a reference to Dr. R Raju, and also, though there are eminent people here, especially Mr. Narsimurthy, who would speak about the book, but since I had the privilege of having received the book and also read it actually, because it's a very voluminous effort and it takes equal effort to read and go through it, and I was very fascinated by what I read, so I intend saying a few things about the book as well. Now, Dr. R Raju has been a long-term friend of mine from the 1970s. Now, it was a friendship that evolved during the period, there is a reference made to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, during the period when the socialization of banks was followed by the nationalization of banks by Mrs. Gandhi. And the paradigm then was Retd I.A.S. and the great efforts that some of us made to really take forward that opportunity that was created for the poor man to walk up the steps of banks in India, something he finds difficult even today as we meet here. But those were the formative years, those were the evolving years, and at that time I was a collector, and later on I became Commissioner of Institutional Finances of Andhra Pradesh when I was Secretary Planning. And my predecessor was none other than the distinguished Mr. T.L. Shankar. He was Planning Secretary, Principal Secretary Planning, and then he was also Commissioner of Institutional Finances, and after him I took over that responsibility. Now, as a collector, as a Director of Social Welfare and so on, I used to make efforts on getting the bankers on board to the various programs that we were evolving to alleviate poverty. I think eradication of poverty would be a great exaggeration, so I won't use the term, though I am wedded to it. They were difficult days. They were extremely difficult days for all of us, because the job in front of us, ladies and gentlemen, at the time was how to change the mindset of the bankers. Now, that is again a tall claim to be made by a salaried bureaucrat like me. I say this with humility. And the other thing was, when we thought that we were changing the mindsets of the bankers thought that we were making extraordinarily unreasonable demands on them. Such was the conflict that was on between us, that I remember in one meeting, they were the days, Dr. Rao, of Mr. Sivaraman, ICS, and he was the chairman of the Traffic Committee, the Rural Credit, and we read through that Traffic Committee report. We took Mrs. Gandhi's Garibi Hataao seriously, literally. So when we were basing our convictions on the basis of those reports,